Hi, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And what hell freezes over moments in wrestling history have happened? Hold on a second. Let me read this. A lot of people are saying that CM Punk's return to WWE is a hell freezes over moment, Larson. In fact, he even had a shirt that says
Hell froze over.
Hell froze over.
It's got his logo with the O.
Yeah.
And froze.
Right, exactly. Very clever bit of design. It's kind of like, didn't the Eagles have a whole tour called Hell Freezes Over?
They did. That was your reunion tour, in fact.
What do you think was like the aspect of that was like, oh, hell's frozen over, the Eagles are back?
Just that people can be in the same room as Don Felder.
Ah, exactly. There's some Eagles humor for you. Anyways, so we asked the Friendos on the Friendo Club Wrestling channel to provide your own, because I was thinking the exact same thing. People hate Don Felder.
Yeah, people don't like Don Felder.
And so I thought it'd be fun to take a look at what you guys think were wrestling's biggest hell freezes over moments that do not include Don Felder.
Yet. Yeah. Imagine the heel that Don Felder apparently would be in the world of wrestling.
He would have been perfect in WWE. Nobody liked that guy.
Apparently nobody cares for Don Felder.
Who is the Don Felder of wrestling, Larson? Who's the one guy that nobody likes? Is he like Vince Russo? No, people like Vince Russo.
There are some people that like Vince
Russo. Like Booker T, I think, likes Vince Russo.
I think Jeff Jarrett at least one point did.
He should. Vince Russo loved that guy. Anyways, while we think about... You guys, how about this? Let us know in the comments below who's the Don Felder of wrestling.
Don Felder. If you know who Don Felder is, one of the guitarists of the Eagles, apparently no one likes.
Apparently nobody likes that guy. Don Felder's catching strays on this random-ass wrestling video.
I saw that he was doing a tour of late.
Yeah.
Doing Eagles songs.
Oh, man, people are going to be throwing...
Without the rest of the Eagles because they can't stand them.
That's lame. What the fuck? How many songs did he actually sing like that were popular?
Well, he didn't sing any of them. He just played guitar on them.
Is somebody else singing? Okay, listen.
It's all instrumental versions. It's instrumental versions.
That sounds horrible.
The entire Hotel California album, Steve.
He's going around on an Eagles music tour.
Exactly.
All right.
Maybe he's playing to a backing track and Don Henley singing.
All right. So what I notice here on this list on our community tab, the most upvoted one is kind of surprising to me.
All right.
It's from Baskin Charge. And it says, AJ Styles becoming a world champion in less than a year under the Vince McMahon era. That was upvoted 14 times.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so AJ Styles.
Because I would have thought once he left TNA Impact, went to Japan and had a lot of success there. I mean, the idea of him wrestling anywhere other than Impact for the longest time just seemed like it would never happen. But once it did, it kind of felt like, I don't know, anything's possible at this juncture.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the idea that, coming in his size, the fact that he was, more of an in-ring guy than like a big personality would be why people think this.
And then apparently Vince brought him in just to be a hand,
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily have any designs of him being a main event dude.
Yeah, right. So we'll put this. So this is the first one on the list, and I'm going to make a little thing where we're going to sort of rank these things.
Another popular one here is Eric Bischoff going to WWE.
And what I notice is there's like multiple of those, and they've all been upvoted. So that like this AJ Styles one was like the most singular one, but there's a bunch of them if you put them all together. Yeah,
cumulative.
Thank you. Cumulative. Debo says,
Do you think Eric Bischoff could be the Don Felder of wrestling? Hogan likes him, but I don't know if anybody else does.
Like really. The Don Henley of wrestling, Hulk Hogan seems to like him.
All right, so I don't think Don Henley got along with Don Felder. So.
I mean, I think there are people who like Bischoff, So, yeah, Bischoff. To me, Bischoff, at least on this list so far, I'm doing this in pen, Bischoff.
That means you can't erase it.
To WWE. That is my number one. The segment to me was this. It was the in-ring promo with Vince, Bischoff, and Heyman.
Yeah.
That to me was the biggest hell freezes over moment. I think that was bigger than CM Punk. I remember when Bischoff first came out, I was floored. Because the thing you got to remember about Bischoff is that post WCW, that guy had like business dealings. Like it's not like he needed to be talented in WWE.
No, you wouldn't think so.
And humiliated on a regular basis in WWE.
Yeah.
He had a whole like video production or video distribution thing with Jason Hervey.
Of the Wonder Years.
Of the Wonder Years fame, exactly.
All right, Steve. I may have found the Don Felder Wrestling Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, wow.
Because when he came back and got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody thought that was going to happen.
That's a big hell freezes over moment too.
Yeah, it's listed here. That's why I mentioned it.
Warrior. Hall of Fame. Warrior back to the WWE. All right. Let's see. Okay, a cursed talk here. Vince selling WWE. Honestly thought he wouldn't give that up until he passed. I think that's a solid one.
That is.
Selling WWE, especially the fact that he didn't actually sell it. He just sort of handed over the company to somebody else for less money.
Said, you run it now.
for fewer dollars
I know.
than he had in the first place.
There's several mentions here of Bret Hart returning to WWE.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That does seem like a pretty major one because given the nature of the falling out around the Montreal Screwjob and after, how seemingly for a number of years that made Bret very bitter.
Yeah, right.
And of course, as we've seen, anytime you hear Bret talk about Goldberg, Bret is not afraid to hold a grudge.
No, he holds those things better than anybody.
And the fact that they were able to, apparently, I think Vince reached out to him. And they were able to patch things up enough that Bret could come back. That would be, that was pretty dang surprising.
Here's a big one, and you're right, that is a big one. Returns. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, okay, let me ask you this. Because there's a lot of these are like returns, right? Like Bruno, San Martino. We've mentioned Warrior, Bret Hart. So people who came back after there was some bad blood. I honestly, and not to make this sort of a downer situation, I can't think of worse bad blood than Bret Hart and Vince McMahon, given that period of time, with what happened to Owen Hart. And just generally speaking, how like Bret left WWF in the first place. Like, in his eyes, you could see how that's a very public humiliation.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that he eventually went back, I mean, it was, about 20 years later or so. It was 2010. So 13 years later. That's right, yeah. So that's not that long of a period of time. That one is probably, for my money, it's either, what do you think is a bigger hell froze over moment? Warrior or Bret Hart coming back? Or even CM Punk?
Oh, I think Bret coming back. I mean, Punk got fired on his wedding day.
Yeah, he did. Bret had a whole WWE allegedly bankrolled a lawsuit against CM Punk.
Yeah, I as far as the returns, perhaps the most shocking might be the Warrior because they produced a feature length hit piece on him.
It was like one of the best selling things they did too.
And the fact that they were able to put all the issues, massive issues, throughout the years behind them. Yeah. To get the Warrior in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And whatnot. That is pretty major. I don't know. In my mind, that's like the most hell frozest over moment I can think of as it relates to a return, at least.
Like what I understand with Bruno, he just sort of didn't like the Attitude Era.
He didn't like the direction the company was going.
He was like, you guys are being kind of gross.
By that point, by the time they got back together and were able to work things out, Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, long past.
I wonder if Vince being around or not had anything to do with CM Punk returning. I think CM Punk just understood he had no other options. Yeah. And he was like, all right, man, I got to eat a lot of crow on this one. They're going to give me a lot of money, and I'm going to get my WrestleMania main event. But in the meantime, I also have to eat a little bit of crow.
Eat a lot of crow.
That one's not too big. I agree with you. I think that Warrior's return is probably the biggest return. Hell freezes over, followed by Bret, followed by CM Punk, and then followed by Bruno. Yeah, Bruno was just like, I don't like what you guys are doing over here.
Well, you're not doing any more. Cool, we could talk now. Mention here, Vince buying WCW.
Oh, that was huge.
That was huge. In 1997, that seemed inconceivable.
I'll never forget you, me, and Jeff hovering around that computer being like, I forget who saw it first. Yeah. But I do remember it was in my room. And I was like, guys! Yeah. I think so. It was probably me. Yeah. And then you guys came and was like, oh my God. So, yeah. I kind of feel like that's probably my number one, is Vince buying WCW. Because like you said, in 97, it was inconceivable. Like in 98, they were huge. Yeah. They were huge. And the price tag he got for them.
Yeah. And also, too, you can make the case that that's tops because without that, obviously, Bischoff doesn't go to WWE.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So number one, Vince buys WCW. Oh, AJ Rods. This is sort of in keeping with the Bret return one, but Bret and Shawn Michaels making up on TV.
Yeah, that was nice to see.
That was very nice to see.
And then they did a whole DVD together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I couldn't watch that, by the way.
Oh, I watched that whole thing. That was interesting.
I couldn't. It just seemed awkward.
Yeah, no. Anthony here says WrestleMania 17, Stone Cold shakes hands with Vince McMahon.
I saw that a couple times on here. I mean,
it's shocking, but also it's kayfabe. Most of I think the really shocking hell freezes over moments or stuff that's more behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was I just thought that was like a bad story idea, to be honest.
It was a bad story idea.
Yeah, I wasn't huge in that, but I never even thought of that when I saw it live because we were watching at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just watching that and being like, this is like a crappy ending to a movie. It just seems stupid.
What otherwise is a pretty entertaining film, yeah.
Here's one, Thrawn. This is kind of interesting. And I feel like it's a variation on this. Roman actually getting over with the crowd. I don't think that is hell freezing over. It's them figuring out Roman Reigns is a bigger thing. They spent so long trying to figure out Roman Reigns. And we already kind of had with the chill Roman character because that's sort of what he became.
But it took Roman's going away and deciding what he wanted to do and saying, if I'm coming back, I'm doing this.
What do you think is a bigger hell freezes over moment? Because we both agree these are kind of like hell sort of as lukewarm over. Stone Cold and Vince or Roman Reigns being figured out? I think Roman Reigns being figured out was a bigger challenge to break than Stone Cold and Vince, which was just bad storytelling. Like anybody can sit down and write a bad story.
Well, that's kind of what Roman's creative was before they figured him out, was just bad storytelling too.
Yeah, right. But to crack a good story, to crack a good character that actually really works to this degree.
How much of that is credited to WWE versus Roman and Heyman? Because I kind of feel like Roman says, "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going away, and I'm not coming back unless you let me do things my way."
I mean, you still have to do it, like it still has to get done. I feel like, I'll put it this way. I still think, regardless of who it is, cracking a good story is way harder than just shitting out a bad story.
I don't disagree with that, but also given what happened, the 3 years that preceded it, Vince shaking hands with Stone Cold was, at the time, it was garbage. But again, in mid-1998, that seemed inconceivable.
Yeah, I could see that. But then this happened in what, 2000 and when was Brett shaking hands with I'm sorry, Stone Cold shaking hands with Vince. That was 2001, right?
Yeah.
Was that 2001?
Yeah.
Oh, his last match was 2003.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess they thought he'd run his course as that character. I don't know. All right, we'll put those close. Roman getting over.
Jay Hunt here says Daniel Bryan getting cleared to compete again and lead up to WrestleMania 34. That seemed less like hell frozen over than more of a medical miracle.
Yeah, it did.
But also, you see the stuff.
It was crazy though.
You see the stuff on him on Total Bellas where he's pretty much like, "Hey, Daniel, you're gonna have to retire now." It wasn't like his decision.
No, I know he did that same thing with Ric Flair.
It was kind of forced upon him.
Hey, Rick, you're gonna retire.
So if you left it up to Bryan Danielson's hands, he probably wouldn't have officially announced his retirement at that juncture anyway. So.
Yeah. Daniel Bryan returns. Again, though, I would put this above story stuff because, like, man, you think you're not going to be able to come back from concussion stuff.
I mean, it's not just Daniel Bryan. There's Edge coming back.
Well, that sort of set the stage for everybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh my God, I could do
Christian. There's a lot of. I mean, Edge was out of action for nearly a decade.
I'll put it this way. After Bryan came back, I wasn't shocked by anybody.
Yeah.
But when he came back, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy that can actually happen.
Bad neck, concussion issues. It just seemed like nothing you want to mess with.
Soraya, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I put that shit above the story stuff. Let's see. Are there any other good ones here?
Someone mentioned here, Steve becoming a Christian fan.
Well, here's the thing about that, though, is there were moments in Christian's career where I thought he was incredibly entertaining. He had just left those behind. Like, if you watch, I dare you to watch his one more match run and tell me anything that was compelling about it. You can't. Yeah. I watched a lot of that stuff and I was like, none of this is interesting because one more match, you're having like a bunch of these matches wanting one more match.
Yeah.
It was very, I don't know. It was very boring. And then when he showed up in AEW, I was like, okay, it's more of that same shit. Just I'm old guy.
Yeah.
So Yeah, this one doesn't really surprise me all that much because I think I'd always said if he goes back to being a snarky heel, I will like him again. He went back to being a snarky heel, and I liked him again.
He's about to be a going in Raw Hall of Famer.
I like this one. Static G Medina says The Undertaker versus Goldberg. Wait, did we talk about Sting coming back?
No, we haven't.
We haven't talked about Sting coming back.
Sting coming to WWE, yeah.
Sting, to me, debuting for WWE is a bigger hell freezes over moment than Undertaker versus Goldberg.
Yeah.
I think I just want to forget Undertaker versus Goldberg.
Yes.
God, Lord,
that
what
match
a terrible match. Yeah.
That match was abysmal.
Sting showing up in WWE.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking.
That was pretty shocking. Because he was kind of like Bruno. He was like, I don't really like you guys.
Yeah.
I'm an upstanding Christian man.
Yeah.
And now he's like throwing himself off tables and shit.
That was great.
All right, so I've got the list right here. I've got the ranking right here.
Handwritten list.
So I think we can both agree Vince buying WCW number one,
yeah.
Biggest hell freezes over moment. Then we have Bischoff to WWE. That's sort of like in terms of moments. Oh my God. Do you think that belongs lower on the list?
I'm tempted to put Warrior above that.
Okay. All right.
They made a feature length hit piece on the Warrior.
When you put it like that, it's a good point.
And they brought him back.
So Warrior, I would say right behind Warrior's Bret Hart, given all the stuff that happened with Bret Hart.
But they didn't make a feature length hit piece on.
They stopped short of doing that. I think Vince always felt bad about that Bret Hart.
I think so too. I think he always really liked Bret.
I think he always really liked him because he always just go along with whatever asinine plan he had.
I know.
Let's see here. So that's number 3. Where's number 4?
4 would be Bischoff coming to WWE.
4 would be Bischoff. Okay. And then 5 would be, I would give 5 to Daniel. No, I'd give 5 to Sting to WWE.
Okay.
Because again, it's like a guy going against what he always said. And it's not like he could have stayed in TNA.
Yeah, he could have.
If he wanted to.
He could have been Joker Sting for the rest of his career.
Medical Miracle, Daniel Bryan to me gets number 6.
Sure.
Then we go into some storyline stuff. What is more shocking to you? Roman getting it right, Stone Cold and Vince becoming buddies, or AJ Styles being a Vince guy?
I would give the edge to Stone Cold and Vince because that is still to this day a really talked about moment.
All right.
And the impact it eventually had on the business.
Fair enough.
In a negative sense.
Then we have AJ Styles being a Vince guy or Roman getting it right.
I'd probably do Roman and then AJ.
All right. So not surprising at all that AJ Styles was a Vince guy in the end. Honestly, it never surprised me. I was like, they gave him a big Royal Rumble. He didn't go through NXT.
No.
Big Royal Rumble debut.
Yep.
And then, of course, if Vince says, I want you to be my bulldog.
Yeah.
AJ Styles can be a bulldog.
And then he has a great series of matches with Roman Reigns, and seemingly Vince is like, oh, okay, he can be world champion.
All right. We figured out. There you go. The 9 most hell freezes over moments in wrestling history.
More importantly, we figured out that Ultimate Warrior is a Don Felder of the wrestling world.
I really feel if there's any good we did today here, Larson, that was it. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you around.
Goodbye.